In the early hours of November 4th, 2025, darkness fell over the Philippines not because of the night, but because of the storm. Typhoon Kalmaegi, known locally as Tino, roared ashore in Southern Leyte with violent winds, torrential rain, and waves that swallowed coastlines whole. What followed was a night of fear, destruction, and heroism, as entire communities faced one of the most powerful storms to hit the Visayas region in years. Typhoon Kalmaegi made landfall near the town of Silago in Southern Leyte around midnight. By the time it hit, the storm was packing sustained winds of up to 130 kilometers per hour, with gusts reaching 180. Its central pressure dropped to around 984 hectopascals, strong enough to uproot trees, tear off roofs, and send heavy debris flying through the air. The storm didn't stop there. It carved a destructive path across central and southern parts of the Philippines, flooding homes, cutting power lines, and forcing thousands to flee. As dawn broke, the scale of the disaster became painfully clear. Streets turned into rivers. Cars were submerged or swept away. Families sought refuge on rooftops, waving desperately for rescue.
Dito, may rescue diri sa phase 3. Maluoy taon mo. Nanami sa rooftop tanan. Ang mananga. Nangaanod na tanan.
In some areas, rescuers used inflatable boats to reach people trapped inside their homes. In others, neighbors tied ropes between houses to help one another cross the raging floodwaters. Authorities confirmed dozens of deaths across the affected provinces, though the full toll remains uncertain. Nearly 400,000 people were evacuated ahead of the storm, a decision that, according to officials, likely saved many lives. The biggest threat came not just from the wind, but from the rain. Kalmaegi unleashed hours of relentless downpours, overwhelming drainage systems and rivers that had already been swollen by weeks of rain. In mountainous areas, soaked hillsides gave way, triggering landslides that buried roads and isolated small villages. Rescue teams struggled to reach some of these areas as blocked roads, downed trees, and damaged bridges slowed their progress. Helicopters were deployed where possible, airlifting food, water, and medicine to stranded communities. In the town of Bebe, one resident described hearing what sounded like a freight train as the winds intensified. When he looked outside, he saw the roofs of nearby homes being torn off and metal sheets flying through the air. Another family in Leyte recounted how they spent the night on the second floor of their house as floodwaters rose steadily.
Natuma na sa balay, guys. Whatever na mo rescue, baka yan, Bulalo Rio 1, please lang. Grabing saka sa tubig.
We could hear cars being dragged away outside, one mother said. The water kept coming, and we thought we might not make it. Local radio stations stayed on the air as long as they could, broadcasting emergency updates and connecting stranded callers to authorities. For many, these broadcasts were their only link to the outside world. Before landfall, the Philippine government and PAGASA, the National Weather Agency, issued multiple alerts warning of possible storm surges, landslides, and flash floods. Evacuation centers were opened across Samar, Leyte, and nearby islands. Officials confirmed that preemptive evacuations reached nearly 387,000 people, an effort praised by disaster response groups as crucial in reducing casualties. Still, the challenges were immense. Power and communication lines went down in several provinces. Some airports suspended operations, while sea travel was halted nationwide due to dangerous conditions. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has called for an emergency assessment of the affected regions and directed agencies to accelerate relief operations. The Philippine Red Cross and local volunteers have also been distributing relief goods and assisting in rescue efforts. Meteorologists say Typhoon Kalmaegi is now moving west-northwestward over the Sulu Sea, possibly regaining some strength over warm waters before moving toward the South China Sea. However, even as it weakens, the storm continues to bring heavy rain and rough seas across the Visayas, Mindanao, and Palawan. Forecasters warn that the danger isn't over. Residual flooding, overflowing rivers, and landslides could persist for days. People in low-lying and coastal areas are being urged to remain cautious, even after the typhoon moves away. For many Filipinos, this storm feels like a painful reminder of the country's vulnerability to extreme weather. The Philippines sits on the Pacific typhoon belt, experiencing an average of 20 storms each year. But recent events suggest they're becoming stronger and more unpredictable. Experts point to climate change as a major factor. Warmer oceans fuel more intense typhoons, while rising sea levels make storm surges more destructive. In places like Southern Leyte, where infrastructure and housing are often fragile, even a small increase in intensity can mean the difference between safety and disaster. International aid groups have begun coordinating with Philippine authorities to provide assistance. Neighboring countries, including Japan and South Korea, have expressed readiness to send emergency supplies and rescue support if requested. Meanwhile, global monitoring sites like Zoom Earth and international meteorological agencies continue to track the storm's progress closely. Despite the destruction, stories of courage continue to emerge. Volunteers braved chest-deep waters to deliver food to stranded families. Church halls and schools opened their doors as shelters. In some areas, power has already been partially restored, and local communities are banding together to clean up and rebuild. As one local mayor put it, "We may be battered, but we are not broken. The Filipino spirit always rises."